cholera. Cholera is a disease caused by the pathogen Vibrio cholerae, which is a bacteria, and this one is transmitted from food or from water consumption that are not hygienic, not clean. And for global distribution, this just means that it is very prevalent in these areas, which is Asia, Africa, and Latin America. Incubation period, it takes 2 hours to 5 days for the Vibrio cholerae or for the symptom to even show up. The site of action of the pathogen or the area where most damage uh, occurs is in the wall of the small intestine. The Vibrio cholerae will release a toxin known as choleragen, and this choleragen disrupts the lining or the epithelium cells of the intestine. This causes for salts and water to leave the cell, and it causes severe diarrhea and the loss of fluid, which can be fatal if not treated within 24 hours. This one is diagnosed through microscopical analysis of feces, and then they would view it underneath the microscope after taking the sample. The treatment that is used for cholera is oral rehydration therapy, and we could see that here. That will be according to what the World Health Organization has recommended. It should contain sugar, salt, and water. And the only way to prevent cholera from happening is sewage treatment, drainage, clean water supply, treated water for irrigation, and we have to note that the vaccine for cholera is not used anymore because it's not as effective as before. Nowadays, probably in our city maybe, or with our current life or our current community, we do not really hear as much cholera cases, and maybe that's because of the improved sewage treatment and water sources, because we could buy like potable water. We don't have to take it from rivers anymore, or we don't have to take it from really deep wells, and we could just buy it from the store. But long time ago, cholera is a big deal. It killed so much people. You could even look up the uh, outbreak of cholera long time. This disease has even become an inspiration for a book called Love in Time of Cholera. And in that specific book, they did not only show the life before, but they showed how they were able to treat the disease by redirecting different sources or a cleaner source of potable water. This is an image from 1835. It shows a person who died from cholera, and then they're transporting groups of people in the cart to be buried. Okay, this image now shows two men carrying beddings that has to be disinfected through washing of cloth or clothes or of the bedding, sorry, so that it would be cleaner to use. During 2007 to 2009, there are still outbreaks, but it's not as big as the pictures that you saw earlier. So in here, you could see that the area with reported outbreaks would be somewhere in India. Is this Thailand, I think. Then portion of Papua. We have African nations and another country in South America. For cholera, there are different strains that have prevailed and caused panic and havoc through time. And these are the ones that are actually in the book. And these are the notable ones, which is strain number 1, which occurred from 1817 to 1923. This one originated in Bangladesh. The next big outbreak happened in 1961. The name of the strain is El Tor, and it happened from Indonesia to Peru. The next one happened in 1971 in Africa, And the last notable one would be in 1992. They call the strain of the Vibrio cholerae as strain 139, and it happened from India to Bangladesh.
If you've played the Oregon Trail, then you know cholera is a harrowing illness that killed many a pioneer. But what exactly is cholera, and why are people still getting it? Hey there, bankers from Boston and carpenters from Ohio. Trace here for D-News. While many of us only know it from the game Oregon Trail, cholera is a real infection with real consequences. In 2010, Haiti was hit with a massive earthquake. UN workers arrived to help, but possibly also brought cholera along with them. Haiti had not had a cholera outbreak in more than 50 years, but the 2010 outbreak left about 790,000 people sick and over 9,000 dead. We wanted to know, what exactly is this disease and what does it do? Cholera is a bacterial infection caused by Vibrio cholerae. Only about 1 in 10 people affected develop symptoms, but those that do must get treatment quickly and can experience excessive watery diarrhea, vomiting, and abdominal cramping. Cholera can kill a healthy individual within hours if they are not treated properly. According to Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health, the incubation period for the disease is about 12 hours to 4.5 days. Cholera affects the digestive tract by releasing choleragen, or cholera toxin, a protein that attacks the gut, causing the watery diarrhea. Because those affected are losing so much fluid, it leaves them severely dehydrated. This can cause hypovolemic shock, or an extreme loss of the body's fluid. This loss of fluid literally makes the blood thicken, which causes problems with circulation and keeps it from reaching organs. This also happens during regular old dehydration and can lead to death if a patient isn't hydrated immediately. Because the loss of fluid is the major symptom, the primary treatment is fast and plentiful rehydration. In areas of the world where cholera outbreaks are common, doctors keep rehydration packets, IV fluids, and salts on hand. I know you're probably thinking salt makes you thirsty, but it's also an important part of life. Without salt, our body can't move fluids around easily. So these packets contain sodium for water movement and glucose, which was discovered to accelerate fluid movement by research published in The Lancet in 1978. They called it the most important medical advance of the century. There are also antibiotics for cholera. However, rapid rehydration is the most important step in saving lives. Today we know that cholera is often transmitted through fecally contaminated water and food, but back in the early 19th century, physicians thought it was caused by bad odors or miasmas rising up from the sewers and open graves. A British physician by the name of John Snow, no, not that John Snow, this guy actually knows something. Snow theorized that something else was responsible because the main symptoms were not in the lungs, but in the digestive tract. Instead of breathing in the source of cholera, Snow believed patients ingested it. During an outbreak in Soho, London in 1854, Snow mapped the cases of cholera and found that there was an epicenter to the outbreak. The Broad Street water pump was surrounded by the highest incidences of the disease, which led Snow to believe it was contaminated water that was the culprit. He published his findings in a book in 1855. It's actually a pretty fascinating read. Also in 1854, in Florence, Italy, Filippo Pacini published a paper describing the microorganism that caused the disease, and in 1884, Robert Koch isolated the bacteria and described how the cholera was spread. Since then, the disease has mostly been eradicated in developed countries with proper sanitation. Each year, cholera affects 1.3 to 4 million people and causes 21,000 to 143,000 deaths worldwide. There are several regions still affected around the world, including India, much of Africa, and most recently, Haiti. After much investigation into the 2010 Haitian earthquake response, it's thought that some Nepalese UN workers may have had cholera in their systems, since Nepal was dealing with an outbreak of their own. Because the septic tanks the UN workers used emptied into a landfill that was close to a river which was used for drinking and bathing, they spread that cholera to the local population. In August 2016, the UN admitted that they played a part in the outbreak and they're planning to help with financial support. Are you on Snapchat? Because so are we, and we've got some really cool stories about science and so much more every week on Seeker. Do us a favor, open up your Snapchat app, pause the video, and scan this code. We'll be looking for your ideas in the messages. See you all there. Are you interested in other diseases like, for example, leprosy? Check out this video about what leprosy does to your body. Have you ever been to a nation stricken with cholera? What precautions did you take? Let us know down in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe so you get more D-News.